thing is you make sure your opponent has a good stick.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you have a good one or not, right? So let's just imagine this is our square here, okay? So if my opponent is at this end of the square, and I'm going to attack him, whatever lead I'm in or whatever, if my attack is here, what is the likelihood of him counterattacking me? It's pretty high, right? If my attack is here, what's the likelihood? Pretty easy. Or if I attack here, what's the likelihood he could riposte? Pretty easy, right? So my first attack is a probe. It's not really intended to land, but if he's right-handed and I'm right-handed, I move to that corner and I get him to turn. That sets up my what? My first movement. That's my first real movement, right? And then as I cut through there, see I have the eyeball and I have the movement back, okay? And so this falls into the category that I wrote on the board yesterday, 1-4-1. Those are master level strokes, okay? So when I move to that corner and he reacts, I just counter. That can be my only hit. I might also what? Counter and thrust and counter and move in my position, okay? But that is called a probe. The reason is if I take my hand and swing it here, this is a real easy target. If I invert that position, you see how far he has to reach to hit my hand? So if I have any idea that he will do two things, counterattack or block, I really lead everything that's going on here. Everything that happens after the initial move belongs to me. Because if he blocks this, then he really he screwed himself. If he's Bolenta walk, or if he's some of those styles that have a tendency to block, he's going to have a real long day, okay? And the idea here is, what are we doing when we probe? What does that do for us? We establish his tendency. So I don't want to go here with a leading attack if his tendency is to counterattack me, right? So I use a probe which puts me at the farthest point for him to either reach here, or him to either reach here, or for him to block. So I want to establish his tendency to block. Once I've established his tendency, I see the line I have. He may come back, but he's really catching up all the time, and there's no possibility of him really catching up, right? So that's the concept of probing. Any question on that? Huh? Okay, let's try probing. Or heavy objects. Okay, Kaj. Okay, you can hold these. So. Okay, now if you don't need those, just these. If I go to attack him, if I go say my initial attack wants to be a jab, or let's just say in this case a back fist, I don't want to do that, do I? Right, so I go like that. Ha! Ha ha! Now when he goes to cut me, see, I have what? That's when I take the weapon. Ha ha! You see what I mean? So I have... I have to have that understanding. What is he attacking now when I go to attack him? Is that my arm, or is that my body, or is he blocking? Is he blocking this? No, he's going to chop my arm. So I go what? Large sound. Now he strikes. Bilji. Now if I go large sound, I move to here. Now he strikes what? See that? Broken wrist. And I put a zipper on his body. Now he goes to stab me. I just what? That's why I like these. Because you see how that can illustrate the reality of the technique? Same thing here. You have one, I have one. If I go to hit your hand, do I want to do this? I can, but that really hurt my weapon. And if he's quick, instead of letting me hit your weapon, oh shit, he hits my hand. So I go like that. Now turn and hit me. Too late, pendejo. You're dead. That's exactly what you're learning here. Does that make sense? Same thing when I go like that. Cut my hand. You see that? Okay. Cut my body. You see that? You understand what I mean? Block this. Okay? Taking advantage of him. I go like that, he goes to cut my hand, I go, ha ha! Right there. He turns to cut me, I turn what? He might not be dead instantly, even though I severed his carotid artery. He might still live for 30 seconds or longer, but the longer he goes, the more he's going to slow down. You know what I mean? But when I go like that, see, I don't want to go clash, 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 clash. Takes too long. When I go like that, if he touches my weapon, I already what? Cut him. When he turns to cut me, that's when I what? Cut him off. I can insert this to block. I can insert that to disarm, and I can cut him here. See that? Okay, does that make sense? That's the same exact thing you're learning here. It's a universal principle of movement. It can be empty hand. It could be with a weapon. It could be empty hand against a weapon. It could be long against short. It could be short against long. It could be a staff, and you have a short weapon. If you do it correctly, if you learn it correctly, you can defeat and overcome extraordinary odds against you. And that one odd might be empty hand against empty hand, but he's just faster, younger, stronger, bigger than you. But if you're not in his way and you do not let him make contact with you, you cannot lose. You cannot lose. That's what we call the internal triangle in calling. Control the point of impact. If you control the point of impact, you can control the balance of the combat. You understand what I mean? So when I go like this, what am I doing here to him? Right? I'm probing him so he goes to that position. I know he may come back, but you see I'm already prepared to do that. Okay? Already prepared to do that. Like that. It's already in my what? In how I move. But see, I can't do this. That's too easy. I have to just kind of skew my body, because that causes him to turn. Then when he turns, I also what? Turn my body. When he punches, I also what? You see, when he hits, I also what? That's cumbiata. People say it doesn't work with short blades. It works if you're in the right position. If you're in the wrong position, it reverberates and you get hit back by your own weapon. Because they will help you learn. Because they educate your eye better than the round ones do. Much better. Okay, any question over that now? Is everybody doing okay enough to learn that? It takes time, especially to establish the what? The proper range. And if he has a little longer weapon, you've got to adjust it a little bit. If you have a shorter weapon, then you've got to adjust it a little bit. But you need to know what we call the razor's edge. Okay? That means where he will respond. Because if I'm out here doing it, what does that do? You just probably throw it at me, right? So you need to understand that. Okay? So these probes here are for the extreme angles and are the safe bet, especially if it's blade-to-blade combat. You don't want to risk getting a wound that could be fatal, even though in this day and age that might not be a fatal wound. But in the 1400s, any wound could turn septic and could become fatal because they didn't have toilet paper. You know what I mean? So that could become fatal pretty quick. So now we're going to move to hard sticks, and we're going to go into the narrow probes. Okay? Okay, let's take a break. And ha. Right? So I let him deflect that over there, and I come back. Now, it doesn't matter whether I come back stick up. Doesn't matter whether I come back stick down. Doesn't matter where I come back pinchi mano. No, it doesn't matter how I come back. But as soon as I go like that, I'm ready to receive that because I know he's going to. Right? That's what we call in time. Right? That's in time. So when I go probe, I come back, but I'm already prepared. If I probe here, see, I come back, I'm already what? I'm already prepared to counter that out. Now, if I want to, I can go what? Right into sombrata, right? So you can go right into sombrata anytime you want. And you should do it that way. In fact, you should always enter sombrata with a probing action. That's kill the drill. You see that? I should always enter sombrata with a what? Probing action. Now you're in sombrata, and you can do how many things from there? I can't count on my 4 fingers, right? No way. But if I want to learn to what? To execute that probe entry. See that? Grab my stick. You see what I mean? Then I what? Or, right? Whatever we do. And then I what? I enter to his outside. Just getting him to what? All I need him to do is deviate. See that? I'm trying to force his reaction because if I enter sombrata like this, what do you do, Kai? What do you do, Kai? So I want this to be more of this. What does this remind you of? Yeah. Why do you think they do that? They don't know what is in his hand. Could be a knife. So they bring it back quickly. Right? So when I go like that, I what? I'm already here. If his hand is slow, I catch his hand. Dust off his head. If he goes like that, see what that's already, now we're in what? Punta sombrata, right? Okay? But that's what I want you to practice. Get him to turn his body. See that? Get him to turn his body. But you're going to allow him to what? Answer. Now, do you kill the drill? Here. Now, do you kill the drill? That's up to you. But I want you to use that probing action. See that? Probe, probe, probe. Because everybody knows to hit the hand. Back when I started doing calling, if you hit someone's hand, that was cheating. And you were a dirty fighter. Oh, but we won. All right? But then later on, as that became the norm. If you go to pretty much any college school, what do they always practice? Hit each other's hands, right? And they hit each other's hands constantly. But if I know that, hit my hand, huh? That's not in your favor. You made a commitment, even though it is to hit my hand. So I go like that, hit my thumb. So when he goes to hit my thumb, I just turn it over. Right? And then what? Make a zipper. Okay, so probe here. With what? Okay, can we try that real quick? Okay, so he can explain it. You know, attack and defense are always taught first in all martial arts because you can't defend if you don't know how to attack. Or if someone can't attack you, there's no way to defend it, right? So that's why in kata, a lot of times people view the kata as blocking, right? Because they're taught defensively. But then they also teach attack, but the attack is usually bland. Even us, we have a numbering system, numbers of attack, but how many of those numbers are going to get your hand hit? All of them except for what? Right? So you got to understand, how do they attack? How do we attack? We don't attack like that. We use the numbering system so that we can become proficient. But we don't fight like that, Jack. We're going to probe. We're going to lead. We're going to bait, and we're going to draw people. We're not going to just generally attack unless they're stupid, and then we just cut them, right? Okay, counterattack. That could be the same thing as if Kai swings at me and I just move and hit him. Or if Kai swings at me and I hit his hand, that's counterattack. A riposte is any time we didn't write riposte. So this should be 1, and this should also be 1. So that should both be 1 and 2. 1, 2 should be riposte. You don't have to erase those. They were correct. And 3 is counterattack. 4 is preempt. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What's 12? Is you. The art has to become you. 12 is doing your form correctly. Not just, right? How to open. I say breathe Wing Chun. Don't just do it. You live it. Okay, counterattack is 3. Preempt the attack is 4. That means reach for your weapon in your back pocket. Right? Or reach for your weapon. What? I don't give him a chance to draw his gun. I don't give him a chance to draw his knife. And then we always say on this side, we say, where is the weapon kept? Behind his back, left hip, right hip, chest mount, back mount, right, on the boot. He's going to tell you, right? If he goes like this and you're having an argument with him, don't wait for him to pull the gun and shoot you. Attack him, right? So preempt the attack. And that could be as simple as when I go like this, he just, right? That's preempt. Give yourself permission and practice it, or you won't do it. You're going to be there. Get ready to defend angle 1, but he doesn't know angle 1, so he just, right? So preempt. Drawing is creating an opening for the person to attack down. We already covered that last year pretty in depth. Baiting is similar to that. I put my hand here. He's stupid enough to fall for it, right? Probing is now what? That outside edge? The outside edge. Leading is the same as probing, but I go real deep. In fact, if he doesn't block, he gets poked in the eye. Whereas a probe, he might not even get touched if he doesn't block. But I'm not exposing myself to counters. Okay? And then patience, man, that's the hardest thing to teach. Because he's probing me. He's trying to lead me. He's trying to draw me. I don't really do anything. And then pretty soon, what does he do? He just attacks. And that's, you understand? So patience is part of the game too. And that's a harder part to learn, especially in sparring. Okay? And then the other thing we call, that's having the sense around yourself, where if he walks toward me, I just kind of turn. Don't give him the opportunity. The human mind, even base human mind, will understand when it can and cannot attack. It just will. Unless they're drunk, right? Then they always can. Okay? Relative certainty comes from knowing this. Right? You know the distance. You know the timing. You know the rhythm. You know the angulation. You breathe Kali. You breathe Wing Chun. For me, there's no difference between Kali and Wing Chun. No difference whatsoever. It's the same art. I can prove it to you. If I had another 10 hours, I can prove it to you. I would love to spend 10 hours just teaching you guys. But then it would cost a lot more for each of you for the seminar. But, and then you what? You have to know yourself. And that changes every 5 years. Every 5 years your body changes, or you might pick up a nagging knee injury. For me, you know, I fight a lot with the students at the school now. But I know now I really can't make that fake and lunge over my knee because I have a spur, a bone spur in my knee, and it hurts. So when I go like that and I lunge over my knee, it hurts, and I'm like, oh. Then I get hit, especially Doc already knows because he's my doctor. So he tricks me into lunging, and then I go, oh, and then he hits me, right? But that's the basics of that. And then and these are more fall along the lines of trickery and deception. Okay, and we're not including floretes and repellents because a florete spends too much time in the what? His hand is in the space too long. Repellent spends the same amount of time. My hand is still in that space. He can counterattack me. If he's a blocker, it works really good. If he's a counterattacker, he'll hit my hand anyway or we'll tie. So understanding florete, repellent, the fractions, all that stuff is good too. But if you understand how to bait and probe, you can make that much more effective. Still utilize it, but make it much more effective. And you will make a person twice as young as you, twice as fast as you, look like a fool. Right? Just make them look silly. Okay? And then number 12, I just wrote one. Number 12 is know yourself. That's why I say you have to change it every 5 or 7 years. I know myself quite well, so I'm not going to put my knee out there where it's going to be in stress. I'm not going to do it. I'll use a different type of shifting. Also, my feet stay a lot closer together now than they did when I was in my 20s. Right? Okay? Okay, any question? All right, guys, good job. And I encourage you to study this. And I gave Kai the information, so also there's a secondary list that goes on the side talking about weapons carried positions. And you should practice defeating those. We're going to do that tomorrow, though. Just defeat weapons carried positions. But, you know, it's all relative to what you guys want. You can always tell me we'd rather have this or that. But, you know, in Texas now we have the law where you could carry any type of knife or weapon that you desire, and the police can't even ask you a question about it. I see people all the time riding a motorcycle with a samurai sword, and the police can't even ask them about it. When I talked to one cop, he said, I'm not even going to bother. If I pull him over and want to talk to him about a sword, I got to ask him to either take it and give it to me, or I got to walk up to him and try to take it. Either way, he's going to cut off my arm. So he just says, unless I get a call, the guy's threatening someone, I'm not going to even bother talking to the guy.